There are lots of things you can spend your tax refund on, but one thing you don't have to spend it on, a new smartphone. Switch to Metro PCS now and get not one, but 2 free 4G LTE smartphones for brands like Samsung and LG. Plus, you're on T-Mobile's blazing fast nationwide 4G LTE network. Hurry! Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free smartphones after instant rebate. One heck of a deal, only at Metro PCS. Limited time offer. Sales tax not included in phone price. Coverage and services not available everywhere. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
How the hell are you out there, race fans? Happy Daytona 500 Sunday. Had a great weekend of racing going on down there in Daytona. Hey, I want to send a big shout out to everybody who's listening to us tonight. I want to pay some big respects out there to the 110 Sports Nation for doing what they do for us. And a big shout out to YellowCautionFlags.com and Chris Creighton. And Chris, I understand you went down there to the Neesmith banquet last night and picked up some hardware, did you not?
Yeah, buddy, yeah. As a matter of fact, we got an invitation to go to the Neesmith banquet there in Dawsonville, Georgia. Now, everybody knows that's the homeland of Bill and, of course, the kid, Chase. But also, we found out there's a lot of history from Dawsonville, and we'd like to get over there and give that a little bit more of attention. But, yeah, the track, one of the tracks I work at, Damion, Hattiesburg Speedway, was anointed track promoter of the year, and unfortunately my boss couldn't make it down there to pick it up, so I got the privilege to pick up the hardware. And man, I tell you what, it was I had that moment, and when I walked away, I felt it was good. That's all I can say.
That's amazing. What do you contribute to be, some of the bigger and the better changes that you guys have made from previous to whenever you took over to, get this kind of recognition?
Consistency. It all comes down to consistency. It comes down to not changing the rules every week, not attacking racers when they get upset, allowing the cool-off time. Sometimes people post things and they regret the moment they post it. Other people just want to pick you, and they want to see you return something back. And I think that the one thing Hattiesburg Speedway does is it's a personal track. When there is problems, most of the time they're taken care of pretty quick. Donald's brought a lot of new changes to Hattiesburg Speedway. Gave it a little bit of a facelift. Worked some bad areas out in the track. Brought some new dirt in. But really, when it comes down to, sir,
how big is that track down there in Hattiesburg?
Oh gosh, don't get me a line. I think it's a 3/8 mile. It's a dirt oval track. It's got a little bit of bankment on it. They've reconfigured the actual track throughout the years. It used to have a income and pit zone and an outgoing. When now everything has to be done in one corner, and so there's certain rules, to help the show move faster. Donald set strategies for cars to if they don't get off the track in a certain time, he'll take their fastest lap off of them during hot laps because everything has to go in sequence. You see, when we're running on a Friday night track and we don't get started till 7 o'clock, people still want to go home at 11. And so it's the duty of the race director to make sure that there are things within inside of that show that can be done quickly and proficiently. And so Parker Donald believes a lot in that. And he's instilled certain things like that give you more time. And in certain mishaps, it just, you're kind of, you're prepared. And I think that's probably another great trait that Donald brings to the table. It's been a great ordeal working with him. I worked for 2 successful tracks. Hattiesburg gets a lot of attention. I live right down the road from Wynot, and if it weren't for those guys over there, I wouldn't be where I am either. So it's just about getting the dirt track name out there, and I think that Donald kind of earned a lot of people's respect by doing his thing and just a consistent show every week. I'd love to have him on to actually explain some of the real inside the person of Donald Parker. He's a great man, and I've enjoyed working for him. This will be our 3rd season together now.
You know what? That's exactly I can agree with that 100%. It takes a good working relationship, and I was just fixing to say that you and I are developing into one of those just so relationships, because I was thinking the same thing. I was going to approach you about maybe doing a promoter show and getting a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to put these things together for us to go out there and do and enjoy. But, yeah, we'll definitely have to look into that, and definitely a big congratulations for everything that came out of the success, for the changes that happened down there at Hattiesburg, and I'm sure you guys are real proud.
Anytime you get recognized, it's always a good thing, and you capitalize on that. Sometimes it's a bullet. It's a bullseye on the back of your back, but that's where consistency comes in. If you pretty much have the same schedule, you do the same things, and the fans can pretty much, quickly pick out what the track owner is going to do in certain situations. I mean, it always makes it a lot easier. And that's something that I think all these tracks around here, look, they are preparing almost every weekend in tracks in the Southeast to have rain just before the race, because we've had so much moisture in the South over the last few years. Tracks were closing down and they weren't opening but once a month. So it's been a lot of extra effort, and I just, it's awesome to see racing where it is now. And let me tell you, top class facility. If you ever have a chance, go to the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame. It is awesome. Only in one place can you get moonshine, pay your water bill, and get your tag. And they also call it a Hall of Fame. So I don't know too many places where you can get a tag and your moonshine at the same place. But this is definitely one of those unique towns that you should go an hour out of the way just to go through. They treated us like we were famous, and they're the ones that are.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get down there and check out the Hattiesburg Speedway for sure. A lot of history there, a lot of great racing.
I was talking about. I didn't mean to throw that off on there, Damion. I was talking about at the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame there. Now, definitely, anybody that's listening in and hasn't gone out to Hattiesburg Speedway, y'all come out and give it a try. It's a Friday night weekly racing. We have a dedicated group of drivers that come out. And also quite a few female drivers, as you know, from our last week's guest. We want to give a shout-out to Stephanie Nikes Cooper and Dustin Nikes, her brother, who is a pitman for Denny Hamlin. They just won the Daytona 500.
Yes, sir. Front tire changer. He surprised us last week and called into the show to kind of razz his sister a little bit about who's the better go-kart driver. And him and his team definitely got it done today down in Daytona in what is being called the closest finish in Daytona 500 history. And you and I were talking earlier before we went on. Boy, when they crossed that finish line, looking at it from the overhead shot they had, and from my naked eye, I had to have that instant replay, because it looked to me like Truex got him there at the line. But Denny Hamlin, by the closest margin ever in Daytona 500 history, picks up the win, man. Good finishes in all three races. Actually, a scary situation Friday night with Christopher Bell at the end of the truck race, and I'll tell you what, for him to be able to walk away from that is a testament to the safety and how far these cars have come.
Yeah, and we don't want to fool anybody. Look, they're still dangerous, okay? Race cars are always going to be dangerous. But the geometry that they figured out on these cars and the types of tubings that they're putting into them is top of the line. And it's not like the old day where you pulled something from the junkyard and you got over in tech line and they found that things weren't even welded right. These cars are well inspected these days. And with that, the security of the carbon fiber seat and a good modern roll cage is, basically changing the sport for the better and keeping drivers around a lot longer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, speaking of safety in racing and keeping drivers around, I'm sure a lot of you have been checking out via our media pages on whether it be Facebook or Twitter or whatever. We'll be posting links to the show page when we're done. But last week we told you about an instance that happened out in California, out at the Barn Burner. And, man, speaking of safety, there was an instance out there that caused quite a big rule change in the beginner box series out there. And we happen to have one of the people involved in that video that's been circulating around the internet. And Doug Lockwood, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing real good. Who is you pulling for in the 500 today?
Well, I just came back from Vegas, and I might have took odds on Kevin Harvick. So I got to listen to it while I was driving across the desert, but I always like to cheer for Kyle Larson. He's, dirt guy from out here, so got to stay with the roots.
I've been waiting for Larson to have that breakout moment. He's been so close so many times to finally getting that big win, and man, Lady Luck just never seems to shine on that kid when it comes to NASCAR, but I'm telling you, put him in a dirt car and they pretty much give anybody a run for the money on any given night.
Oh, yeah. It was nice for him to finish a race at Daytona this year, though.
Yeah, that was a good change of pace. Well, hey, man, we were just kind of talking about this video that's been circulating around the Internet, and we'll get to that in a little while, but as I did a little bit of digging into your personal background, you've had quite an interesting career when it comes to racing.
Yeah, I've been around quite a while now, it seems like. Started back in probably about 98, just, 16 years old, wanting to be a kid at the racetrack and help out. And I think I started out doing it for free, and then I started racing go-karts, and the guy paid me $50 a month, and that was kind of like a sponsorship for me. So just kind of how I started getting into it, and just kind of moved my way around throughout the years, and I've always enjoyed working at the races.
You got really bit with that and took your first position as a director at the King Speedway there in Hanover, right?
Yeah, I just happened to be working for a series out here, and a promoter took over there, and I kind of, came with the experience, and I think I was about 25 when I took over as a race director for the first time at King Speedway in Hanford, and just kind of worked my way up, and I've been doing it ever since, and I love it.
Let's talk about the job that you took after that whenever you jumped up into the World of Outlaws organization with the traveling series. I know it's being around racing, you either have to love it or hate it, and I know it was probably a big commitment for you to do that, but man, what was that like to go from being able to sleep in your own bed every night to being on the road and never being home?
It was a challenge. I was blessed, though, and I loved every minute of it. I got to go out, work with the Outlaws, started out as a track official, and opportunity came last year to move up to their competition director, and was able to be the race director for them for a while, and then live the hotel life and the road life. It just kind of ate at me, and I decided I wanted to come back home. I had an opportunity to come back home to California and work for USAC full time, and decided to leave the road. I miss the guys. I still stay in touch with a lot of the drivers and old coworkers, and I'm actually pretty excited. I'm going to get to see all of them here coming up on March 4th when the Outlaws come to Vegas. My support series will be running with the Outlaws in Vegas, so it's exciting to see all of them again, but definitely glad to be home in my own bed once in a while. Yeah,
you decided, you said, to return back to your roots essentially with USAC, and now you are the race director of the West Coast 360s and the Western Midgets. But you were also involved with the USA 600 series. I'm not very familiar with that. You want to kind of fill me in on what that is?
Well, one of the main things that I did for USAC, it's actually a USAC, not USA. We've actually branched out. We've branched out, and their main goal of bringing me back was to start a 600 program, because right now our gap goes from, we have the USAC quarter midgets, and they go to USAC midgets or HPD midgets and sprint cars, and there's no real stepping stone. So what I'm trying to bridge a gap for our kids in our series and racing in general is we're going from quarter midgets and trying to get them to USAC 600s, and then from USAC 600s for them to move up to midgets or sprint cars. So it's just trying to help build a ladder for kids as they go, and there's been a lot of positive feedback. I've had calls from about 8 different states of wanting to get involved in it, and looking forward to getting this program off the ground.
Yeah, I know you have a very big role that you play out there with the Youth Racing Association and the Quarter Midget Association. We have the QL SMA here where I reside. But what is it about working with kids that really just keeps you coming back?
You know, I've got a soft spot, I guess, in my heart for go-karting. I used to race go-karts. The funny part about the whole situation of me going was I had raced there, you know, a couple of weeks before at their prior race, and then I stopped. I've had back surgery, and I just wasn't feeling it that day, and I was out there for like 9 hours, and Evan Sanders, who runs the Barn Burner series out here, is doing a great job with karting. It's at the strongest point it's ever been in California, and in my opinion, since I've been around. And I just offered him my help to come help him with a little bit of what I do and bring that to them as they're learning. And he's, you know, kind of a new promoter out here, so trying to show him the basics of stuff that I do, and I offered to come help him for his 2-day weekend, and that's actually why I was there that weekend. I've been helping another beginner box stock with his setup, and I just enjoy being out there watching the kids. You're able to build relationships. I have drivers that race for me. One of them's actually the flag man there. He hates it, you know, so I like to give him a bad time because he gives me a bad time when he races for me, so it's fun to watch him get razzed up a little bit. But, you know, it's just a big community of kids, and it's the future of racing and what I do for a living, and to be able to see the kids that are going to be eventually hopefully racing, you know, bigger cars and for me later on in their careers, you know, is essential to me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's got to be a great feeling to know you've had a helping hand directly with the future of our sport. And, you know, for a parent that might be listening and, you know, might want to get their kid involved in some form of racing, I mean, what are we talking about price-wise here to just go out and be able to buy what you need and be turnkey ready to go to the racetrack and start turning laps?
You know, I think in the beginner box stock class, the carts, you know, if you want them fully contained and everything, those beginner box stocks, you can get them probably from $1,500 to $2,500, depending on what kind of chassis you get. I actually joked around with my sister. I have 2 little nieces, and I found a beginner flat cart, you know, for $600, you know, out here. So, it you know, it just all varies. It's just, it's a good scene right now. Evan had about 91 carts, I think, at that last race. And I remember when I used to race go-karts, I mean, we'd be lucky to hit 40 carts, and I'd be lucky to race against 7 carts. And he had one class that had 27 the other day, which was phenomenal.
There's obviously over the recent years been a huge growth in kart racing, whether it's like the beginner box classes or, you know, the high dollar shifter kart classes. I mean, do you think that might have something to do with the fact that the cost of racing has just gotten so astronomical? People are just looking for a more cost efficient way to go out there and still be able to go really fast in a competitive series?
I think, I mean, that might have a little bit to do with it. I think the big thing is, like, for out here and what he was doing is it's winter racing. You know, everybody wants to go and still race. It's under a covered barn. So even if it rains or you have bad weather, they all still get to race out here. And the motors these kids are running are the clone class now. You know, you can go to Harbor Freight and buy one of those motors for $100. Then you go and spend a couple $100 and you get a chassis, and you could be racing for less than $1,000 as an adult and having fun out there.
And what do your guys' car counts look like out there with the different classes that you run? I mean, obviously you said the numbers have come up, but at any given event, what can you do to expect car count wise?
I mean, in the clone class, he had 20. I mean, they set a cap at 16 carts in a main, and that weekend, that Saturday, we had 3 B mains we had to run for 3 different classes. They ran the Outlaw 500s, the clone carts, and then they have a animal and World Formula class that had, you know, over 20 carts, which is, it's just crazy. I mean, to see the amount of carts and kids and people out there at a go-kart race is just phenomenal to me, and it was a blessing, and I can't thank Evan enough for allowing me to come out and help them and be a part of it.
Let's talk about the future and where you think you seem to have a long history with the sport, and what would you like to see?
Is everything okay?
Yeah, I lost him.
Yeah, it seems like Damion may have dropped off there, race fans, but it's no need to get into a fuss at all. We'll get Damion back on the line here in just a second. Doug, this is Chris from YellowCautionFlag.com. We got Damion back.
Hey, I don't know what happened.
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. When you're ready, Damion, you just lead off, man.
I'm sorry. I must have dropped off or something. I apologize, Doug. But the question I had was you seem to have had a lot of experience and history with kart racing out there. You know, would there be one thing or maybe a couple of things that you would change that would think it could propel the class in a whole other direction?
I mean, I think there's the biggest thing, you know, out here going is you get a lot of guys that are racing now with their kids. I mean, and you see it, and these are guys that race at the Saturday night local tracks. And the biggest thing I feel is to be able to continue to race on days, you know, Friday or Sunday, on days off of those people, so that they could continue to support their kids while also being able to continue racing themselves.
Exactly. Well, the topic this week, we're talking about youth and racing, and there's a video going around, and we talked about this last week, and you were, like we were talking about earlier, a part of that video about a wing kart driver out in California at the Barn Burner that had a safety issue happen, and man, I'm telling you, she handled it perfectly. Well, not only do we have you, but we also have her parents here with us, and we want to welcome them to the show. How you guys doing?
All right.
Man, scary situation, Travis. Tell me from a father's perspective, whenever you saw that, I mean, man, what was going through your mind?
Well, just trying to think of a way to be able to get her stopped and stop safely. And when it first happened, I was on the center of the track still, and I went running after her, and there was nothing I could do when she was coming head on at me. She was on the pavement section of the pit area, and, you know, full throttle, wide open, no brakes, and I knew if I had tried stopping it, like how Doug did, I'd get hurt really bad, or, you know, something bad would happen, and fortunate enough that Doug was able to do it, and obviously a bigger man than I am.
Well, folks, if you haven't seen the video, let me get you caught up to speed here. Little girl, her name is Taylor, she's 7 years old, runs in the beginner box series out there, and she was coming off the track after she had just won her second heat race of the day, and she had her throttle stuck wide open on her, and she had a brake issue at the same time. And I got to tell you, Travis, I've seen seasoned veterans seize up in an instant like that and just completely do the wrong thing, whereas, man, you're a 7-year-old little girl with, you know, no formal training, very young in racing, and she knew exactly what to do. Explain to us what we didn't see in the video, because I know she was cutting circles in the parking lot for a good 4 or 5 minutes, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was, and it was just a crazy sight. It's one of those days that you don't want to replay ever. You know, I still get teary-eyed every time I see the video. You know, I still can't imagine what was going through her head at the time, because the things that was going through my head, what could happen, you know, as far as hitting a little kid or somebody's trailer, or, you know, the nose of the cart go underneath of the back of a pickup, or, you know, it could have been a real bad deal. And she definitely had angels looking down on her, and one hell of a driver, I tell you.
Yeah, whenever I first saw the video, and the first thing that came to my mind after I got the story about what happened that we didn't see, and the first question I had for her mom was, obviously you guys must have had taken the time to sit down with her and go through different scenarios and how to react to different things. And it was surprising to me when her mom, she said, we can't take credit for that. I mean, she just instinctively knew what to do, and I immediately referenced what Dale Earnhardt used to say, it's something they can't put in you and they can't take it out of you. You either got it and you don't. And that's amazing to me that she knew exactly what she needed to do. She kept everybody safe. And, man, I saw something I never thought I would see. I saw a man tackle a race car. I mean, Doug, what was going through your head whenever she was coming at you like that? She was probably, 35, 40 mile an hour maybe?
Yeah, probably 25, 30. To be honest, there wasn't much going through my head when I went out the back of the track, because we use a quad as like a pace vehicle for the beginner box stock, and I was running the quad that day, and I seen her go out, and I knew something wasn't right, so I was watching, and then she came back, and then there's another side of the exit where the video picked up, which I have to mention is Fast 4 Media did the video. Kyler Shaw, he actually was on his way home from another race and picked it up. A good friend of mine, and I still can't believe he got it on video. But I went out the back there, and my thought was I was going to go out and stop it with the quad, and just get in front of it, lock the brakes up, enough to get it slowed down and turn it off. And when I got out the back there, they had hay bales blocking it, and I couldn't get the quad out in time when she was making the corner, so I just kind of jumped off. And she came around the corner there, and I tell you, her eyes were as big as mine. We were both looking right at each other, and the only thing I could think of was, just don't churn, because if you churn, I'm going on top of this thing. So, and that was it. I mean, it was it. She hit, and I just grabbed it. I mean, I don't remember too much of how it happened so fast. I just remember looking at her. Her eyes were as big as mine, and I was just thinking in my head, just hold it straight.
I think one of the things that really stood out in the video to me, after you had grabbed a hold of the car and had the front end off the ground, and she was still looking around the direction the car was spinning because you had a hold of it, and the whole time she's wheeling this car. I mean, the whole time until it got stopped, she was in total control, and that's commendable. I mean, and as a direct result of that incident, they've now made kill switches mandatory, have they not?
Yes, they have added kill switches in, and it'll be good for the kids to learn how to use those and hold those down and be a process of the beginner class, and allowing them to understand, that can help them, because, in the flat carts, you can just pull the spark plug off and it'll go, and that's how you're taught when you're racing go-karts. But in these beginner box stocks and the outlaw carts and stuff, you really can't reach over there and get to it because they're in containment seats. So a kill switch will be, a great addition for these kids.
Now, is there something that, like a program that you guys implement for the beginner classes, or like you bring them out for a day and kind of go over different scenarios and rules and things to that nature? And if not, do you think you guys might be doing something like that later on down the road?
Evan's doing a good job with it, and one thing that we did that I've helped him is the beginner box stock is actually, it's kind of the level is kind of, the learning curve is higher for some and lower for others. And to keep it fun for all the kids is what we've been trying, because we've been getting 9 to 10 of them, maybe 12, is when we run 2 heat races, we're trying to split them up with the kind of the advanced beginners running a heat together, right, and then the beginners running a heat together. That way they can get laps in, because it does no good if the advanced beginner goes out there and laps them 3 times and then the kids aren't getting any lap time. And that's one of the processes that I'm helping them with, so that these kids can get the laps that they need and deserve, and go out and have fun, so that they can continue to get better and want to come back to the next race.
All right, hey, I've got to squeeze this in real quick, because it fascinates me that we've made so many right moves to get racing more safe and keep the drivers around a lot longer, but this this kill switch thing. It's driving me crazy. There's no kill switch for these types of carts, and if not, what do we need to do as parents to make sure that is added to the cart, or is that something that could be against the rules?
There was no rule for these kids for a kill switch, but now they've added that in. Now the kids have to have a kill switch on their cart to race. And I mean, there's even ones out there that I've told parents, if their kids are so young and they don't trust in them on knowing how to use a kill switch, because in those instances a kid can still freeze up and not remember to use it or how to use it, is they make kill switches that a parent can stand out in the infield and hold, and it's a remote kill switch. And they make those, which, if you have a super young kid, wouldn't be a bad idea to use either.
Okay, so you made me feel a lot better now that I know that there's actual... It's already been implemented. It is crazy how certain things like that can be overlooked until that moment. It didn't seem, like a big deal, but definitely glad that y'all have made a rule change there. I think we've got another person in the studio here too. Charlie is he runs a dirt page group called Dirt Track Racing, and Charlie wanted to ask you a question. Charlie, you there? Charlie, press 1. Okay, we'll get back to Charlie then. Damion, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought he was ready.
Well, that's okay. Another question I had for you is, looking at the video, it looked like you might have hurt your arm or anything like that. Did you sustain any injuries from that, or everything good to go?
I had some pretty good cuts on my right hand, where I grabbed the top of the wing. Travis had that thing made out of some pretty good metal, and when the left side of my arm apparently took the brunt of the hit, and I just had scratches on it, and then about a day or two later it bruised up pretty good and was all black and blue, and I said to myself, I better go to the doctor just to get it checked out, make sure there was, no blood clots or anything, and everything's all good. I haven't heard anything from him. The bruising's all gone now. It's about been, I think, 2 weeks now, and my hand's finally all good, and and was lucky that nothing was hurt, nothing was broke, and survived.
Oh man, well, Travis, have you guys had an opportunity to speak since this incident happened?
No, I haven't gotten to speak to Doug. I just can't. I commented on a post and told him, thanks, Doug, I appreciate it. Just very thankful that Doug was there. He's in the right spot at the right time, and like I said already, he's definitely more man than I am, because when she was coming head on at me, I couldn't think fast enough to grab the wing, and I knew it was going to be a nasty deal.
Wow.
You also have I'm sorry.
Sorry, Damion. Sorry, Damion. He just, as a father, he just really kind of brought me into the story there, because when seeing that situation, you want to think, man, there's got to be something I can do. But a lot of times, just something happens so fast, it's really no way, unless you were superhuman, to even be in the place of something to happen. So, really, it's a guardian angel. Doug's a guardian angel. That's all I can say, really.
Absolutely. He's definitely worth the cape.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I believe I just heard from Taylor's stepmom, who is also named Taylor. What's your take on all this?
Well, it's definitely a learning experience. It opened our eyes very big. And, the upside is that we learned how skilled and how natural of a talent Taylor is. And, coming off the track, when she was coming off her heat, it was like she flew past me. We were going to the trailer. And our other son, Michael, was right behind her trying to follow her, and she just goes full throttle right past me. And she's doing donuts past our trailer and all through the pitch, just doing donuts wherever she can go. And it was intense. People were panicking, and, she was pretty rattled for a good, couple hours after that.
Yeah, I can only imagine that. Yeah, like we had talked about a couple of days ago that, we had both seen instances like that, with professional drivers who've handled situations a lot worse off than she did. And I'm telling you, for 7 years old, that's just amazing to me that she was able to maintain her composure and keep a level head and keep everyone around her, including herself, safe, and Doug stepping in to do what he did. I mean, all around, for as bad as everything could have been, everybody involved did absolutely what they needed to do to make this outcome exactly the way it is.
Oh, yeah, and for me, this is my first year of doing anything for the kids like this. My husband might be a little more experienced when it comes to that, but I didn't even know something like that could happen. So it was like when the reality sunk in, what was going on, it was tough. Everybody was trying to run after her or figure out what the heck to do, and, Doug saved the day, and we can never thank him enough.
Well, I also understand that she has something she would like to give to Doug as well, and I know she's probably sitting there tugging on. I know she's probably sitting there tugging on your shirt tail. So let's hear from the young lady herself, and let's get her thoughts on this.
Wait, one for Doug. Say hi. Say hi.
Hey, Taylor.
Hi.
Taylor.
Hi, Taylor.
Hey,
how
we're
are
on
you?
the radio. We're some of the radio people. We've got your friend Doug. You remember Doug? Doug, the one that grabbed your race car?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got him on the air. Say hey to Doug for us.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Taylor.
Now, Doug's been sharing the story of the day that your cart went out of control, and I tell you, Taylor, how did it feel to have your own guardian angel that day? Tell us how that felt. You just want to tell him thank you?
She's
she
having
probably got a little shy there, race
moment.
fans. It's our first radio show, y'all. I mean, seriously, everybody give Taylor a hand. It's our first call in on a radio show. We do appreciate y'all letting her come on and letting Doug tell the story, and I'll let Damion finish up with you guys. Thank y'all for coming on.
Yeah, I know she is going to get a complete makeover, a whole new look to her car, and we got a couple of pictures of the damage that occurred from Doug grabbing a hold of that sideboard on the top wing. And if you can believe it or not, after that incident happened, after winning her 2 heat races, she went out and ran her feature and was able to bring it home 7th. I mean, that says a lot about the courage and the character of that little girl. But Taylor, can you tell Doug what you're going to do with that sideboard?
Your sideboard. Oh, you're going to give him the sideboard.
Give it to him.
Yeah, you're going to give it to him. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's the one thing about racers, Taylor. They're always giving, and sometimes you have to give and take on the track. Sometimes you have to give and take out there in the pits. Glad to see a young person like you so involved in the sport. You guys are doing great.
That's awesome. One last thing I wanted to touch on with you guys before we got off of here. There was a lot of negativity going on directed towards the parents personally via some of the social media and things like that about, and I don't blame it on ignorance or stupidity. It's just uneducated people that didn't grow up in racing that raised the question, why would you let your children that young put themselves in that position, and
they don't understand, Damion. They don't understand the dirt life.
Right. I mean, you got to live the life. You got to embrace it 100%. But I wanted to get you guys' perspective on that and help, maybe put some people's minds at ease and help educate. This is a safe sport. I mean, the safety in these carts for these kids is just as sophisticated as some of the stuff you'd see going on down at Daytona this weekend, right?
We may have lost our guest there.
I'm here.
Uh-oh. We
I don't
hear
know
some
where
people
Travis
laughing in the background. Yeah, basically in a 45-second, we got to move on to the next guest here, but Taylor has everybody fascinated, and I definitely want to try to get more out of this. And Doug, I think he has so many more areas where he could have another fascinating interview with us as well. But in 45 seconds, guys, y'all just kind of tell us what you've learned out of it and what that means to keep Taylor into racing. And is this a very dramatic point in her life where y'all are pretty confident now that she's in safe hands?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty confident that she's in safe hands, and you know, as far as the kill switch goes, it crossed your mind, but you really didn't think it was necessary, which now you know it is, and you know, that's installed on the car already, and everything's been replaced on her car. You know, she's gonna go out and she has 2 races left, and one of these races she's gonna win the main. She's been in the top 3 pretty much all year long, and she's gonna get a win here pretty soon.
All right. Now, Doug, close us out there in about 45 seconds. Tell us what you learned out of this.
I think just the most important thing to me, well, I mean, one I went over, it was funny, is, the reality didn't sink in. I went over and apologized to him for messing up his wings, so I find it funny they're going to give me the sideboard, and it's pretty cool, you know. But, I mean, my first instinct was to go over and tell Travis, man, sorry, I jacked that thing up, but I didn't mean to. And then the other thing was when I went over to check on her, and it made me, because obviously you see in the video I walk off, and I wasn't, thinking, I didn't check on her. I just walked off. But the most important thing is I went over later, and I was so excited just to see her back in the cart, ready to go racing again, and her to go out and race that main event was the best feeling for me, that it didn't scare her to that point.
That's exactly
that she was
right.
able to continue racing.
Great point, Doug. Great point. And listen, Doug, we want to bring you guys back on again. It'll probably be later on in the summer. We'll do a little quick recap on how things are going. The parents, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I'm sorry that we're a bit with time right now. We've got to go to our next guest. But
can Taylor say one more thing?
She can have
Absolutely.
the show. Yes, ma'am. Let her talk.
You don't have time.
Checkers or records?
Checkers or records? I hear you.
I love
Good deal.
it.
That's the way to hold that steering wheel. Thank y'all so much, Taylor. Doug, we want to hear from you again. I think you've got some more fascinating stories for us. And thank y'all, like I said, for letting young Taylor come on the show here. Guys, we've got to go on to the next round. We've only got just a few minutes left, and I definitely wanted to give these twins a little bit more time than this, so we might go over the program just a little bit because we definitely want to give them their time slot. I'm about to introduce a Mississippi Street Stock Series Rookie of the Year, Spencer Hughes. Spencer got his start a couple of years ago in the Pure Street class and quickly moved up to the Street Stocks, and I do believe he'll be talking tonight about his brand-new Street Stock car. Now, Ellie Hughes is his twin sister. Ellie Hughes is been crowned the 2015 Hot Shot at-track champion, and she's quickly moved up into the ranks, and I believe today she had a special announcement. So we'll bring Spencer on into the show, and hopefully we'll have Ellie there as well. You guys hear us loud and clear?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Good deal. Now, Spencer, you've grown pretty quickly in stock car racing over the last couple of years. You tell us about that first race, your first race at Why Not, and are you where you thought you would be, considering the success straight from the door?
I wasn't really expecting to have much success right there in the beginning, but everything seemed to work out just fine, and the first race went really good and moved on to the state championship.
Quickly, you were able to get all of that out of your head. You were able to move on. Was a lot of it because it was a track car and nobody would expect a situation like that to happen? Was it kind of easier to put to the side because, you did steal the show that night?
Well, I don't know about that, but we raced go-karts for years, so, I was nervous, but I tried not to let it get to me, and I think we did really good the first 3 races of last year.
Yes, sir. Now, I want to jump real quick to the Dixie 50 this past year down in Hattiesburg Speedway. You were in an incident early, and the car was just completely tore up. At any point in time, did you think that you would not be able to get that car back out there?
Oh, we were about to load it in the trailer, and we just got looking over it, and really the only thing it did to make it not raceable is it broke an inner tie rod, and we fixed that, and we had a provisional, and just went out there, and I think we ended up somewhere around 13th that night, actually.
Yeah, you did finish the race, and as a matter of fact, I believe the series waited till the last minute to announce that you guys were going to be able to race the feature. Given the type of caliber drivers that you've been racing with over this past year, tell me, has it been a night and day from where you started 2 years ago and where you are now? I mean, you've had a lot of great help around. Plus, your father is a very well-known late model driver, right?
Oh yeah, he raced for many years, and it was a big jump from go-karts to going out there and being able to race side by side. But I've really enjoyed racing with some of the best street stock drivers around the Southeast, and I think I've learned a lot. And looking forward to this year.
All right. Now tell us about the plans for 2016 before we go to Ellie.
Well, I wanted to build a new race car for a while, and got Biscuit to help us. Biscuit helped me put the roll cage in it, and then Justin McCree helped me out on the front and rear suspension, and then Bowling Performance helped me out with just pretty much finishing up and getting ready for powder coat, and they're going to help me out with all the sheet metal and all that. So we've had a lot of nice people behind us helping us be able to get it ready.
Now, when you get one of those biscuit-built race cars, does James Eflin deliver the biscuits, or do you actually have to go out there to pick them up at his house?
Well, there wasn't too many biscuits going on in that operation. It was mainly powered by Reese's, but.
That's right. Biscuit was actually a former race sponsor for our show back in the 2014 race season, our second season in, and we hate not seeing him at the track so much, but glad to know that he's still out there working in that shop, putting out some biscuit-built race cars.
Oh yeah, he's still heavily involved in the racing scene.
Now, has Justin McCree kind of been a good coach for you, or tell me who you've kind of looked at where you weren't intimidated to ask questions? Who did you go to?
Davey Massey actually introduced me to Justin McCree back at the Fall Classic in 2014, and me and Justin just talked, and he helped us out all last year, and he helped me out with just set up information and all that, and every week at the track, and we just decided to go with him since he helped us out so much.
All right, last question before we move on. Spencer, how long did Ellie have to raise Kane that you were racing and she wasn't?
Oh, well, she raced go-karts with me for most of the season, and when I started racing the Pure Street. Okay, well, I mean, she wanted to race bad, and she actually drove Rodney's car one night after the races, and I reckon the Get Hooked car did its job. We had to find her something to race last winter.
I tell you what, it had been quite an absence from the last time four cylinders were raced weekly at Why Not Motorsports Park. It's taken a little bit of time to get that class going, but Ellie, I think you've kind of brought a new purpose, a new light to the whole series. Are you going to stick around and still race them there, or tell us about your next move?
Well, I have a factory stock. We went and got one over the winter and have been putting it together. But I do still plan on racing Stingers on some occasions.
Uh-huh. Now, tell me about some of the excitement that you had in the Stingers. First, it was getting the cars to get there, getting some competition for you. How many races did you go when you were waiting at the pit gate to see if there would be a car to roll through that you could race?
Quite a few. Stingers used to be popular back a while back, and they just kind of died off around this area. But I think it was good that they brought back that class. It's an entry-level class, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to get into it. And it was an awesome learning experience for me, and I had fun in that class.
Do you feel kind of like the captain of the class when you have these other racers coming in from other tracks? You were kind of the hotshot driver. People would stick around at the end of the show to actually watch you race, to watch you do your laps. People were still interested in it. Tell us about how the other racers treat you. I mean, they've got to look at you as the boss, right?
Well, the first time the boys from Louisiana come up, I was having trouble with my car, and they come over there and did everything they could to help me. And they really are some great people, and I learned a lot from them and them coming up.
Now, Ellie, I didn't mean to kind of get you caught out there with Spencer. Tell us the truth. How many bad notes was written in between the time that Spencer stepped into a roll cage race car and when you were able to? Did you give your parents a lot of extracurricular, or was it all planned that you were going to get into a race car too from being in the go-karts?
Well, I was wanting to hang down in go-karts for a little while, but after I drove Ronnie's car that night, I decided I had to have a car.
Sometimes it will get you in that rush.
It does not take much to get bit by the bug.
That's right.
Now, Ellie and Spencer, this is Damion Bean. He's from up around the Midwest. He's doing a partner with the show here. I think Damion's got a couple of questions for you guys.
Man, my question is obvious, man. I want to know what everybody knows. What's the competition level like in your house on a daily basis?
It's high.
I mean, are you guys racing each other to the bathroom first thing in the morning? Is eating a competition? I mean, do you go for speed, quantity? How does that work?
I don't think there's anything that we do that is not a competition, and that runs for the whole family.
That's got. Oh man, that would have to be amazing to have a sibling to be out there to race with, because I would think it would make everything just a little bit more better for the sibling relationship, just to get that rivalry going, and also on the flip side of the rivalry, you also have that connection that you guys can fall back on, and you'll have for the rest of your lives.
Yes, sir, and don't forget that Daddy used to race, and he hopped in the car last year when Spencer had some medical problems when he broke his collarbone, so Dad still got it.
Now, yeah, as a matter of fact, Ellie, that's what we were just sending Damion through the backlog. We had kind of mentioned earlier that old Johnny used to be well known for being a wheelman as well in these parts. Tell us, when you were a kid, was it always the fascination to get behind the wheel? Was Dad always open? Did Mom try to shy away? Tell us about that inside of growing up in the Hughes home, knowing that y'all loved race cars.
Well, Dad.
See there, y'all are competing on who's going to start first.
It.
How did y'all do that? I mean, it's one phone right now. Go ahead, Ellie.
Well, I mean, it's just something we grew up around. We grew up at the racetrack, and when Spencer was about 6, I think, we got into go-karts. And it's just grown from there.
Spencer, tell us about your dad being as good of a race car driver. Was it always, is it pressure on you to compete like him? I mean, or was it basically just a shoe being passed on to another foot?
Well, I mean, he got out there. He sort of embarrassed me a little bit when he drove my car. He did win the heat race, and he blames it on me for not winning the feature. He claims I sabotaged the car or something. But I've always wanted to race ever since I grew up watching him race. So, and there is a pressure to do good, knowing that he used to be very good. And just got out there and tried to do the best I could.
Coming from a family with a racing background like that, and having, a father as successful as he was, I mean, how willing is he to pass on that knowledge to you? Do you guys have that kind of working relationship where he wants you to learn on your own, or is he willing to get right there with you guys side by side and pass on his knowledge?
Oh yeah, he's helped me out a lot the past 2 years racing big cars, and he's been very open. There's probably been several nights where I've made the wrong adjustments to the car, and he just kind of sat back and kept quiet and let me learn on my own. But our driving styles are a little bit different. He likes more of when the track's real muddy and tacky, and coming from a go-kart, I like it to be about as slick as it can get. So, but he's helped me out a lot, and he'll help me in the shop every night, and he's helped me out a lot.
Now here's a question I have for both of you. Growing up watching your father and being racers yourself, what's the biggest thing you took from watching your father and just the knowledge that he passed on to you? I mean, what's the biggest thing in your driving style that you was able to take from him?
I don't really remember too much of him racing. I was real little when he was racing, but I've watched a lot of videos and I know he used to be really good, and he's mainly just coached us a lot and just telling us, where to enter the corner at and all that, and he's done that ever since we started racing.
Yeah, Spencer, that was kind of one of my questions. Y'all, how old were y'all when Johnny quit racing?
We had just been born when he quit racing late model, and then he got an open wheel modified right when Why Not opened, and we probably weren't 5 years old or something. I think he raced late modifieds for about 2 years, and the last year he raced, we had started racing go-karts, and we're getting to where we were traveling every weekend, and he decided to hang up the helmet for a little while. But
now, has Mom always been pro racing? Has she always been involved, or is she kind of the tug back every now and then when it comes to how you're going to spin and what races you go to? How does Miss Jennifer take all this?
Mama has always supported us wherever we wanted to race. And actually, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Mama has raced a go-kart before.
Oh, really?
Really? All right,
yes,
come on, Miss Jennifer. Come on, you got to get on. You're a racer too. You got to get on the show.
She actually did pretty good.
I actually have a call-in guest right now. His name's Charlie Smith. He has a couple of group pages, and me and Charlie work a little bit together. Charlie is just now kind of getting into the scene of the radio shows and stuff, and we wanted to bring him on for a couple of segments and let him ask our guests some questions. So, Charlie, what question do you have tonight for Spencer and Ellie Hughes?
All right, for Spencer, what would you like to see through this season improvements?
Oh, I'd definitely like to run better in the series races. I think we're going to plan on following the Mississippi Street Stock Series, and I hope we have a few more top fives and maybe pull off a few wins this season. And I think that's possible. I'd really like to get a top 5 in the points in the series and be really competitive in the weekly stuff too.
Will y'all be trying to go for any big races this year outside of the Mississippi Street Stock Series?
And I think what Charlie means by that, they have several non-sanctioned events this year that, were started basically as Neesmith races, but now that they're being paid over the allotted amount, these have become sole-sanctioned races. Are there any plans to maybe go to some of these?
I think we're definitely going to try to run most of the big races up around Magnolia, and I would personally like to go down to Flomaton some. Run some of their bigger races. I don't know. It's quite a long ways down there, but I plan on definitely running the Golden Egg Classic, I think it's called, or the Easter race up there at Magnolia, and definitely like to make it to the 5,000 at Magnolia.
Now, this is a question aimed at you both. Do you think that being that y'all were introduced into racing at, I think, 14, 15, do your friends want to be more involved with the sport because you are, or is it still kind of they're sticking ball and y'all are racing? Tell us about that real quick, because what we want to know is the fascination. If all of a sudden you started driving race cars, how many people in your class do you influence to start liking racing?
I actually got influenced by one of my friends that I went to school with, and that's who got me started in racing. And I've got one of my best friends, Zach Combs. He started hanging around the shop a lot, and he actually had the race car. But
he's addicted now?
He got addicted fast, and there's been a few others that we met through go-karts, and when I started racing big cars, they're moving up. Parker McWhooter is one of them, and Josh Smith raced a big car for a few races. I think they're back down in go-karts now, but definitely it draws the interest to a lot of people, and we've all the time got people stopping by the shop and seeing what's going on. And
now, Ellie, when you talk about your wins, how do girls counteract with that? Do they say, "Well, I just went and bought me a new pair of shoes"? I mean, how do they when you're talking to your girls at school? How do they come back that, hey, you won your feature event last night? What's their comeback?
Well, a girl that I worked with, when I first got my Stinger, me and her started talking about building her one. And she came to my first race, and after that, we got her talked into getting her a car, and she's actually running Stingers. She ran the later part of last season, and she's going to run this full season.
Now, we want to talk about the sponsors. Y'all have a couple of good sponsors that have helped you along the way. Tell us about the relationships that y'all built with a few, not just the community of racers, but also the business of racing.
We have definitely been very lucky with our sponsors. BJ's Tire and Service Center has been a great sponsor to us. That's actually one of our family businesses. But they have been a great sponsor to us, and we've had quite a few people along the way, like Sinclair Auto Sales, Sinclair Superlube. They help us out. Biscuit has helped us out a ton. Bowling Performance. We have quite a few people standing behind us.
Ellie, where does your number 9 come from?
Dad's first race car. It was a blue Camaro, and it was street stock class back then, but now it's more like pure street. And it was a blue number 9 Camaro.
All right. Now, Spencer, what made you stick with the number 11?
Dad was number 11, except for his first race car. When he raced three-wheelers, it was number 11, and all through his late model career as number 11, and then when he raced modifieds, it was number 11, so I figured I'd just stick with the tradition.
Well, Spencer, it works out good because my birthday, you'll be able to forever remember it now. It's 1109, okay? So every November 9th, you think about your sister's number, your dad's number, and your number, and you'll know that it's my birthday without having to go to Facebook.
All right.
Guys, I appreciate y'all coming on. I wish I could have gotten y'all a little bit more time. Some of our listeners have already been pushed out of the show. And being that it's syndicated several times during the week, we try to keep it within that actual time length. But, guys, we do thank you for coming on. It was kind of a late setup there. But let's close out with some words of encouragement or something like that from you and your sister Ellie. What are you planning to do this year that's gonna make you feel like it was a successful season, Spence?
Oh, I definitely think if we win us a few races, I'll be very proud of that. And like I said, I really want to run better in the series races and a lot of the bigger races that we're going to go off to. I just want to be a little bit more competitive this year. I mean, we had a very good season last year with winning the Rookie of the Year, and we finished 6th in the series points. But I just wanted to do a little bit better than that, and I've got some great sponsors behind me this year, and they've all helped me out a lot, and I think we're going to have a very good year.
All right, thanks, Spence. Come back on the show anytime. Keep us up to date. Let us know if you gather any rivals out here in the dirt tracking world. Ellie, give us a closing statement there, please.
Well, thank y'all for having us on the show, and
you're welcome.
I am excited to see what this season brings, and I'm very lucky that God has given us the privilege to be able to race and to be able to grow up in it.
That's right. Thank you, man. That's awesome. I tell you what, race fans, if tonight didn't steal your heart, if tonight didn't make you feel like racing is not just good for the entertainment, but it's also good for the soul, like chicken soup. I tell you what, hearing these kids talk and having Taylor come on and say hey to Doug, and hearing Ellie and Spencer, who grew up in a racing life, getting the opportunity to do what they do. Guys, what we always try to push on these shows is racing is more than racing. Racing is a family. It's a life. There's a reason why we all go around saying #DirtLife. If you aren't a part of it, find a racetrack today. Yeah, find a racetrack today. I've got enough video. I'll get you a feel of what's going on. If you're listening out there and you've never been to a dirt track, call me. Instant message me. I'll get you to a dirt track somewhere, wherever you are.
Yeah, I will make
Damion,
that happen.
what do you have to close out here? And we want to give Charlie one more time to come on. And Jason, the only correction I think we have on tonight's problem was I said that Hattiesburg Speedway was a 3/4 mile track. Oh God, I need help here, y'all. It's a 1/4 mile track. Okay, sorry about that.
1/4 mile, little bull ring, huh?
Oh, 1/4 mile.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I agree. Great show. It kind of brings everything into perspective. Racing is a big community, and that community is family. Sometimes the people you meet in racing turn out to be more influential and bigger parts of your family than your own family members. So, man, what a great show. And I want to thank all of our guests for coming on. And, again, Chris, congratulations to you and everybody at Hattiesburg Speedway for winning the Promoter of the Year from the Neesmith Series. And I want to thank Jason for manning the phones and running the studio. Thank everybody over at 110 Nation, the folks over at I-95, Chris at YellowCautionFlags.com. Next week,
that's the show sponsor. You better go check it out too, because we will be watching. We're watching our numbers every day. There's not anything that doesn't happen within these networks that we don't know about. Keep us informed, y'all. Use the group thread. We have created a place for everything. You just get involved with this show. We'll get you there. We've had live interaction throughout the show. A lot of great guests on. Things rolled smooth. I tell you what, it has been a good addition, Jason, bringing Damion from the Midwest. What do you think, Jason? What are you going to close us out with?
Wow, you actually going to make me speak tonight. This weekend, getting to watch all the racing that I got to watch, it was, replay the ARCA Series race I have on my DVR, or if it was a Truck Series race, the Xfinity Series race, the Spray Cup Series race. I tell you what, have an opportunity to sit through and watch all that and get the adrenaline up and having the opportunity to just have a weekend full of racing and to be able to sit in here and listen to these stories and listening to the dirt fight. So when I moved down to North Carolina, it was the first opportunity I got to go to dirt tracks. Up in Ohio, we ran at the Kilcare and Shady Bowl. It was all asphalt. And getting to have an opportunity to sit in the studio and listen to these different stories. I tell you what, when Taylor said checkers or records right there, she stole the show. It didn't matter what anybody else said tonight. She had stole the show right then. And
absolutely.
I was glad to sit here and listen to it. I definitely enjoyed everybody calling in and everybody and hanging out in the studio listening to the show.
Yeah, Jason, I think we had a lot of callers calling in tonight, and if you didn't get on, we're very sorry. We have never really had much of good luck at actually having people call into the show, but I think with adding these group forums and kind of keeping things moving along, interacting with the guests as they listen to the show has created a buzz that's going around, and I really, I think within the next few shows here, we might have to add another 30 minutes to the end just for call-ins. It's something to definitely look into.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. A fan Q&A would be awesome. And one thing we want to stress to all you guys is, we consider this a fan-driven show. It's for us to sit here and talk about what we think and about what, who cares? This is about you. It's about the people you want to see at the racetrack, the stories you want to hear, and that's why we're here. And I got to tell you, next week's show, man, is awesome. We got Larry Barber Jr. from Kentucky. He's going to be joining us. And get this, we got 2 late model guys out of Illinois that are in a group of only 5 drivers to win the UMP Summer Nationals and the UMP National Championship in the same year.
Wait a minute. I think we've already had one of these guys, haven't we?
As a matter of fact, we had another one of that group. Brian Shirley was on with us a couple of weeks ago, and we're talking about the Highside hustler, Jason Fager, and the search for a champion winner, Bobby Pierce, going to be on with us next week. And we're going to talk about what they got accomplished on Speed Weeks, what they learned for the 2016 season, and man, I'm telling you, next week's show, it's even more power-packed than this week. I can't wait.
No, I know. It's so much fun. Bobby's been kind of waiting on the back burner there for a minute. Guys, if you want to get on the show or you want to get a chance to maybe have your driver interviewed, if you're the crew chief and you're sitting around and you think that this would be fun, we want to keep this thing entertaining. All you guys have to do is contact me, Jason or Damion at any of the sites or our personal feed, and we will schedule you. The schedule's looking tight. Damion, I did not expect this many people to already be lined up for a show that we just launched back in January. We're going to have to steady it up a little bit. I think this show's gaining a lot of popularity. Mark Hollinghead is on the line there. Mark, what you got for us, man? Mark?
Hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Press 1.
He's sitting here. Press 1, Mark. All right, Mark Hollinghead from Brandon, Mississippi. He was calling in to tell us how he hated our show, so we got rid of him. No, I'm just kidding. Mark is a good guy, and we're waiting on his driver's suit to come in now. YellowCautionFlag.com is donating a driver's suit to our good friend. We don't want him to get burned or anything.
Hopefully he calls back in as soon as I connect it over. I try to get him on.
He went to sleep. He probably went to sleep. He sent a text message to me and goes to sleep. That's what he does.
Hey, Jason, how much time do we have left to work with?
The show won't be syndicated out. This is kind of we started this with Steve. This is kind of the after the show party. Steve really. There was times where we had great guests on and we would kind of go over. And the one thing that I felt was really fascinating about the show with Big Sweat was the after party, how we would stay in the community and talk about events or reiterate back to something. And I'll give this credit of this part of the show to Steve because he really made this important. It used to be when I would be done with the show, I'd want to clear the guest out, shut the show down. But actually going around to you guys and getting more perspective is kind of a behind-the-scenes deal, and I think that our on-demand listeners appreciate it as well.
Yeah. Well, Steve Billmeyer, really good guy. Got to be fortunate enough to do a show with him and talk a little bit of pavement racing, and hell of a guy, hell of a story, man. The background in racing. I will post that show on the show page here whenever we're done, if you guys want to give a listen to a guy that has probably one of the most fascinating careers in old school NASCAR. You'll definitely want to take a listen.
For real. I mean, he second to none. The man that I met, Pickle. His name's Pickle at Dawsonville yesterday. He's the man that rings the fire horn every time an Elliott wins. Those people are fascinating. They're absolutely fascinating. They have this special privilege in life, and they don't take advantage of it. It's really awesome when you get to meet people like them and what they their storytelling is probably better than anybody's.
I hate to cut you off, but I got to get this in before I forget. So you're saying there's every time an Elliott wins in Dawsonville, they ring the fire alarm there. So are you saying?
Oh my gosh, you didn't know this? You didn't know this?
Do
you know Raymond Parks was from Dawsonville, Georgia? Did you know
that? I did not know that. But
Bill France's father said that there was a certain racer. There was only one racer that was better than Dale Earnhardt, and his name was Lloyd Craig, and I believe that was his name, and I believe he got killed in 1947. So between the periods of 1947 and 1978, in Bill France's eyes, there was no better driver in between. And we're talking about Richard Petty, Silver Fox, we're talking Cale Yarbrough, we're talking Mario Andretti.
And that is an elite list.
The big man himself, Bill France, said there was only one driver that is better than Dale Earnhardt.
Now, where I was going with that, did you get to hear Chase Elliott's first official horn blast when you were down there?
I was 10 minutes behind when Chase took the checker flag. We were turning onto the highway that takes you into Dawsonville, and actually I would have probably made it for the actual bell ringing, but they had a roundabout in the town, and my GPS and a roundabout don't seem to work together because it's something about 4 stops and make another right. So I don't really know what the heck a roundabout is. It's a thing in Georgia. We're from Mississippi. We got dirt roads, okay? And you try to get as far to the ditch line as possible when you pass somebody. Roundabouts are not really something that you do unless you're out in the yard with a throttle stuck on a four-wheeler. We could go on for days about the roundabout. So, yes, there was a roundabout in Dawsonville, and it just spoiled my whole plan to hear that fire horn blown when Chase Elliott won the race.
Oh, man, that would have been cool. Well, folks, we're glad you're hanging out with us here on the After Show. And a good thing about dirt racing that goes hand in hand is ice cold beer. So if you have the means, by all means, join us as we sit here and just bench race a little bit. And let's get back to a little bit.
Well, I quit drinking years ago. I got the kids and all. I don't normally social drink very much. We go to Talladega twice a year, but hey, man, you know what? If you got your cold one in your hand, cheers to Damion and cheers to all of you that have stayed in and listened to the show here. Jason, now you sent me a text here just a second ago. Big Sweat will be back on the air February 25th, right?
Yes. That's correct. Just coming up Thursday night, 9 p.m. Racing with Big Sweat is the name of the show. I will be in the studio with him, co-hosting. But yes, he makes his return this Thursday night coming up.
Okay, what about the other racing show? Because we've got a lot of race fanatics that are listening to this show, and we want to get them to all the race material because, hey, if we're not filling their life with racing, we ain't doing our job.
We have our NASCAR show on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network on Monday night, 7 p.m. Rubbin is Racing. Steve Vilmar actually will be joining me tomorrow night. He usually hangs out and co-hosts with me on Monday nights from 7 to 8. So we will be on the air tomorrow night talking about the Camping World Truck Series race, the Xfinity Series race, and the Sprint Cup Series race. And what's great about it is not only does Steve have all this knowledge, but he was a crew chief, and he crew chief Tim Richmond, Jeff O'Dine, Jimmy Johnson, amongst many other names. And so not only do we get to sit and analyze the races that we've seen this weekend, but we also get to pick Steve's brain about the crew chief side of the house and what the thinking was, especially with these tires. I think my biggest question tomorrow for me to see this, how does a crew screw up and put the left side tires on the right and vice versa, whatever happened to Greg Biffle, because that's what ended up blowing out the tires, had the wrong side tires on the car. And I don't know how you mess that up, because I've been to enough races doing media that they got all those tires marked. So there should have been no kind of confusion on which side those tires were supposed to go on. And
at least you didn't spend 30 minutes on a run to try to find the key to the race car. That's probably the most horrible trick you could ever play on somebody that's not too familiar with what really happens behind the scenes. As a matter of fact, if you see a new guy, just go ahead and just give them the old Chris trick. Tell them to go find the keys to the race car. They can drive it if they find them.
You want to hear the funniest story talking about finding a key to a race car. I was in the military. I was a mechanic. I was third shop. I did a lot of work on Humvees. The LMTVs were new. We helped phase out the Deuce and a half at that point in time. But whenever you had a new soldier, there was many different things that you do. But the funniest thing we did to one of the guys that joined our squad was we had these little jars. Same thing, you would put a urine sample in about the same size, and we would get transmission fluid samples, oil samples. And what we did with the new soldier, we told him to go where the exhaust pipe was and get an exhaust sample. And so he's out there with his cup, and there's somebody in the cab of the LMTV, and the squad leader, he revs this LMTV as hard as I've ever heard any military vehicle get revved up. You can't even see the new soldier. It is so black, and it is smoke everywhere. He comes over, and he holds it up, and they're like, no, we don't see nothing. Did you get anything? And they sent the poor guy back and made him stand there next to the exhaust, and they revved that thing up as hard as they could. Like I said, you couldn't see nothing. It was so black. And he I tell you what, he was about as mad as they come when he found out all of it was a joke. But you'd be amazed how many times I would have somebody come up asking for grid squares and looking for Timlite batteries. That was always humorous. You always knew you had a new soldier when someone come looking for Timlite batteries or a box of
I've got one, Jason. Hold on. How about a chicken deboner for your boneless wings? Love it. Love it. And when you get the other restaurants to play into it, you wind up having a guy who probably spent his whole shift trying to figure out the pieces to the deboner, the chicken deboner. And most of the time in the end, we're not even going to tell you what they wind up in their actual possession when they get all the pieces to what this chicken deboner is supposed to be. That's the old restaurant trick right there.
I'm glad you said that, because I
don't go snipe hunting either, kids. Don't go snipe hunting.
I worked in the pizza business for 10 years. I worked mainly at a New York-style pizza place at just different locations. And anytime you would pop a hole in the dough stretching it, you would send someone to go get a dough repair patch kit. And
oh my God.
Make sure you pick me up a tire kit and some fuses too when you do that there, okay? Get that patch now. It's supposed to be doughy on the outside and rough on the inside, okay?
That's right. His brother worked for us, and we told him to go in school, and he could not find one. And so he goes down to, we had a Dollar Tree in the shopping center. And he walked down, he's like, man, he came back, he's like, I couldn't find one. I know that I've seen one somewhere, and I just couldn't find it. So we sent him down to Walmart. We had a Walmart in our shopping center. And he had the whole staff down there in the food section looking for this, and they swore him down that they had one. And we're all we could do to keep a straight face on this. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to let you use my car. He didn't have a car. I said, I need you to run over to, I want to say it was a Papa John's, whatever pizza place was across the road, and go ask them for a dough repair patch kit. And, meanwhile, we done, I done put the dough over the hole, and, we're like 30 minutes later, and this is still going on. And he goes over, when he leaves, we hurry up and call the pizza place. And be like, look, tell them that someone else came right before he got there, and he gave it to them. And he comes back, he was mad at this company because they gave out their last dough repair patch kit, and he was just ready to fight everybody. And then we told him what the deal really was. Oh, he was ready to fight literally everybody at that point. So we had him running around for about an hour looking for a dough repair patch kit.
I tell you what, and when he finds that dough repair patch kit, you're going to find it in a place where you least expected it to, because he is going to forever hold a grudge against you. He's probably going to pass you in the nursing home. He's going to be up there visiting somebody, and he's going to see you in the room, and well, we just won't even go into detail what that guy's probably going to do to you, Jason, when he finds you again. Guys, I've had a great time. And it's been such a long week. We're getting ready to go back racing. As a matter of fact, the South kicks off racing this coming up weekend. Thursday night's practice, Friday at Magnolia, Saturday at Magnolia. It's the USCS sprint cars. You'll have Kenny Schrader and Kenny Wallace out there at the Magnolia Motor Speedway. They call it the Black Ice. So make your plans to be out there. March 4th, Hattiesburg Speedway kicks off for their third annual Ice Cracker event. They'll have the ACS sprint cars. That's the 360 series. Make sure you come out and support Hattiesburg Speedway on their opening night affair. Also, Why Not Motorsports Park will open up the following week. Don't go to practice on Friday night because you got to be at Hattiesburg to race for points. So make sure Rodney Wing knows you're coming and tell him you'll be there Saturday. But on March 12th, the Battle of the States, it's the third annual Battle of the States. And boy, oh boy, Why Not Motorsports Park, they know how to do it big. They bring in cars from all around. They give special awards for being the fastest car from the States. And I tell you what, it's just a big-time affair. And they always try to throw a couple of cool little deals in there. I think one year they were supposed to have a rival race. It unfortunately got rained out. So just keep in touch with Why Not Motorsports Park Facebook page, and make sure you guys are getting geared up for the 2016 dirt race season. Hashtag in it to win it. Hashtag dirt life. Hey, I'm Flag of Caution on Twitter. YellowCautionFlag.com is where we roam. I'm out, guys. Peace.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you next week, buddy. And, speaking of Daytona 500, for me it's a bittersweet day because that's the official kickoff for me whenever the 2016 season officially begins and starts as work, because racing season will be getting kicked off up here in the Midwest before you know it, and I got a full slate ahead of me this year. Probably going to pull the camera out and do a little bit of traveling around, take some pictures. And now that we got the show here, and Facebook has this really cool new little thing they got called Facebook Live. So I might be going to some of these bigger shows and getting some words in with these guys, and we'll be streaming it live on our page, and you can check out what's going on there. We might be able to play some sound clips on some shows or just dedicate a portion to the page. It's nothing but video clips and sound bites and things like that, so something cool we might be trying out here in the future. Man, let's talk about a little bit what happened down in Florida. Hell, Josh Richards, man, ripped off 7 wins down there, man. I mean, everybody was down there thinking Jonathan Davenport was going to be the guy to pick up where he left off in 2015, but man, everybody jumped ship and jumped on that Longhorn chassis bandwagon, and Josh Richards goes down there with a house rocket and just puts it to him. 7 wins, man. Him and Clanton had a good battle the other night, and that's going to be interesting to see. I hope somebody's going to be able to step up and give him a run for his money this year, because I don't want to see him stink it up again like he did last year. But I think we're going to pretty much wrap this up. And, Jason, we thank you for coming on and hanging out with us and chatting a little bit after the show. And next week, like I said, we got a stacked show. Larry Barber from Kentucky going to be on with us. I think he's going to spend probably most of the show with us, telling us about what he's going to be doing for next season. We're going to be keeping a real close eye and tabs on him as he's making the move in the late model ranks and really starting to make his name for himself down there. Also, Bobby Pierce, Jason Fager going to be stopping by talking with us, talking about how their speed weeks went, what their plans are for 2016, and all the good stuff they got going on with their individual operations, so you ain't going to want to miss a bit of it. Be sure and look on the media pages after the show. We'll start posting links to all the guests we had on tonight and their stories, and I think that's going to be about it, Jason.
Damion?
Yeah?
Damion, I've not gone anywhere yet. I thought about something. You know, we found you.
That's a scary thought.
We found you. You were retired, semi-retired. You weren't doing much of anything, and I said, hey, man, come on. Come with me. We're going to have fun again. We've had fun again. If you've had fun tonight and you think that you could be a part, maybe a great asset to a company like the one that you're listening to right now, if you could bring something to the table and you're good at journalism or you're good at maybe you've had a radio show before, maybe you're out of the business, contact 110 Nation Sports and just see if we might have an internship that we may can offer you. Look, it takes getting out and getting to know people. And I know one thing me and Jason have stressed over, we need good people at 110 Nation. I need good people at YellowCautionFlag.com. We share Damion. Damion is actually employed between YellowCautionFlag.com and 110 Nation because we love people that much. We'll share you, okay?
I feel like a cheap hooker, buddy.
Yeah, no, that kind of didn't sound too good. Look, man, go buy your Lucas oil. Just don't lube it in the wrong spot, okay? We love you guys. Make sure you're following that dirt life. And if you want to be a part of this show, call us. Start a relationship. I promise you, we want to talk to you. So you give us a call. If you had a good time tonight, be here at same bat time, same bat place next Sunday night. It's the Dirt Talk Hour. We're out. I'm really gone this time, guys.
I'm going too, man. I got beer in the fridge. I got to go.
There are lots of things you can spend your tax refund on, but one thing you don't have to spend it on, a new smartphone. Switch to Metro PCS now and get not one, but 2 free 4G LTE smartphones for brands like Samsung and LG. Plus, you're on T-Mobile's blazing fast nationwide 4G LTE network. Hurry! Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free smartphones after instant rebate. One heck of a deal, only at Metro PCS. Limited time offer. Sales tax not included in phone price. Coverage and services not available everywhere. See store for details and terms and conditions.